Welcome to the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco Rivera. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more Death Row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. You can also check out my other channel here on YouTube called The Maximum Sentence, where I cover recent crimes and convictions. There will also be a link for that. The case I'm going to talk about today has received a lot of media attention because, once again, we have a situation where the death row inmate to be executed, according to some, did not commit the actual murder. Many in opposition of the death penalty are saying that Tremane Wood did not kill anyone and that he should not have been sentenced to death. I have already discussed these type of cases in a few previous videos over the years. I don't know why this seems to be so difficult for some to understand. When you have two or more people committing a crime that results in someone being killed, everyone committing the crime can be charged with murder, regardless of which one of them was the actual killer. It's called the felony murder rule, sometimes also referred to as the law of parties, in which individuals are held criminally responsible for a crime committed by another person if they were part of a conspiracy or aided in the criminal act. This means that an accomplice or co-conspirator can be charged with murder even if they did not commit the actual killing. So if someone was in their car as a getaway driver, or someone stood as a lookout outside, they can also be charged with murder. Most states do not care who pulled the trigger or who did the stabbing. They don't care. The law is clear on this. And in death penalty states, all of them could be sentenced to death. We don't have physical proof, per se, of who the actual killer was in the case that I'm going to discuss today, because there were only two witnesses to the actual murder, Tremane Wood and his brother, Jake Wood, and we don't know who to believe. Before the brother, Jake Wood, committed suicide in prison in 2019, he had always said, and he testified at his brother's trial, that it was he who stabbed and killed the victim. But he had also said that his brother, Tremane, wasn't even there when it happened, that there was another man there named Alex. But nobody was ever able to figure out who this Alex was. And Tremane's baby mother, Brandy Warden, who was with the two men that night, even though she ran outside and didn't see what was going on inside the Ramada Inn motel room, Brandy said there was no Alex there that night, only Tremane and Jake Wood, which obviously makes the brother, Jake Wood, a liar. What we do know is this: the victim was stabbed to death with a knife. A knife. We know that the victim's friend, a man named Arnold, who we will discuss more later, who had escaped from the motel room right before the murder occurred, positively identified Jake Wood as holding a gun. Jake Wood was the bigger man, and Tremane Wood, much smaller in stature, was holding a knife. As a matter of fact, when Tremane Wood ordered Arnold to give him all his money, Arnold showed him that his wallet was empty. And that is when Tremane Wood hit Arnold in the head with the butt of the knife that he was holding. So Tremane Wood had the knife. One would have to believe that after Arnold escaped from the motel room, that Tremane Wood and his brother Jake Wood decided to switch weapons. Here, I'll take the knife and you take the gun. And that's how Jake Wood became the stabbing killer of the victim still inside the motel room. I don't see a jury buying that sudden switch of weapons. But, like I said, it does not matter. When it comes to how the laws are laid out, Nobody cares who the killer was. Everyone involved will be charged with murder. Ronnie Wipf and his friend Arnold Kleinsasser were both raised in very rural areas of Montana in two different colonies of Hutterites, members of a religious group similar to the Amish. They did not know each other. They would later learn of each other while working a harvest in the state of Texas. Both Ronnie and Arnold attended Hutterite schools in Montana, and they mostly spoke German. They did a lot of farming, ranching, gardening, and carpentry work. This is a recent photo of Arnold taken in 2024 during an interview about this case. Arnold is the survivor who managed to escape from the motel room where his friend Ronnie was killed. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo of Ronnie Wipf. During the summer months of the year 2001, Arnold Kleisanser was 19 years old, and he was curious about what it was like in the outside world. His boss at work told him that there was a group in the state of Texas looking for people to do some harvest work, and that some other Hutterites from Montana were already there. Arnold made his way to Texas, and it was there that he coincidentally met Ronnie Wipf, who was also 19 years old. I say coincidentally because they were both from Montana and they were both Hutterites. As the Christmas holidays approached and everyone doing harvest work was given time off to be with their families, Ronnie and Arnold carpooled together back to Montana. But along the way, sometime near New Year's Eve now, they made a stop in Oklahoma City. And it was on the night of December 31st, 2001, New Year's Eve, that both men went into a bar in Oklahoma City called Bricktown Brewery to wait out the new year there. Meanwhile, in a home in Stillwater, Oklahoma, not far from the Bricktown Brewery in Oklahoma City, two brothers had reunited, Tremane Wood and an older brother named Zajaton Wood, who everyone knew as Jake. They had gotten together after Jake Wood had been gone for a while. Jake Wood was recently released from prison in October after doing 7 years. According to reports, Tremane Wood had mostly stayed out of trouble during that time, and he had two children with two different women during the time that his brother was in prison. Tremane Wood was the youngest of three brothers. Aside from Jake Wood, there is also Andre Wood, seen here with their mother. Andre had no involvement at all in the crime. Joining the two men that night, New Year's Eve, was Jake Wood's girlfriend, a woman named Lanita Bateman, and her friend, Brandy Warden, who is the mother of three children. And one of those children happened to be Tremane Wood's son. But Tremane and Brandy were no longer in a relationship. Regardless, the four of them decided to head out together to celebrate Jake Wood's return from prison and New Year's Eve, and they ended up at the Bricktown Brewery in Oklahoma City. Now, just before closing time, the two women, Lanita Bateman and Brandy Warden, found themselves alone for a moment, and they were approached by two men from out of town, Ronnie Wipf and Arnold Kleinsasser. And the men suggested that they all go to a motel room together to continue their conversation and celebration of the new year. It was now January 1st of the year 2002. So at least one or both women told Tremane and Jake Wood about the invitation from the two men, and an arrangement was made for the women to go ahead and accept the invitation. Go to the motel room and tell the two men that you will charge them $210 to go to bed with them. $210. What's the extra $10 for? Anyway, the plan was that Tremane and Jake Wood would arrive at the motel room before anything happens. And then everybody just leaves with the money. So the two women did as they were told. But when they all arrived at the Ramada Inn motel and the men accepted the proposition made by the women, neither man had that much money on him. So Brandy Warden drove Arnold to a nearby bank ATM machine and he gave her the money. And then they went back to the motel. Back inside the motel room, Lanita Bateman told Ronnie that she needed to make a phone call, that she needed to call her mother to let her know that she's okay and where she was located. That call was actually placed to her boyfriend, Jake Wood. When she called, she started out by saying, "Hi, Mom." She gave information about the motel and ended the call by saying, "I love you, Mom." Brandy Warden and Arnold returned from the ATM machine, and both women said that they will be in the bathroom for a little while before getting started in the bed with the two men. While they were in the bathroom, there was pounding at the door, and there was a man out there yelling, "Brandy, are you in there? Open this door." Ronnie Wipf freaked out and told his friend Arnold to call police. But Lanita grabbed the phone and said, "I will call the police for you." We all know she's not calling any police. When Ronnie realized that this was all some kind of setup and the women were not going to go to bed with them, he demanded that they return the money. For some reason, Ronnie opened the door and the two women went running outside and got inside the white car that Tremane and Jake Wood were driving. Tremane and Jake Wood, with their faces covered with ski masks and wearing gloves, entered the motel room and demanded that Ronnie and Arnold turn over all of their money, with Jake Wood pointing a gun at them. As I said before, Tremane Wood had the knife. This is confirmed by Arnold, who survived this crime. They gave the men what little money they had left on them, $68. When Tremane asked Arnold for more money, Arnold showed him an empty wallet, which infuriated Tremane, and he pounded Arnold in the head with the butt of the knife. At some point, Ronnie Wipf decided to put up a fight, and there was a struggle with both men, both intruders. That's when Arnold saw his opportunity to escape and ran out the door. Arnold ran to a nearby complex in freezing weather, opened up a garbage container, and got inside to hide. He later peeked out and saw the white car drive away. But he also saw other people coming and going from the motel and didn't know if they were somehow connected to the two men. So he stayed hiding in the garbage container for a few hours. At about 6 o'clock in the morning, he finally got out of the container and went to the motel where police and detectives were already present. And Arnold was told that his friend, Ronnie Wipf, was stabbed with a knife. The medical examiner concluded that Ronnie died as the result of a stab wound to the chest. Surveillance video from the motel camera showed Brandy Warden and Lanita Bateman renting the room while accompanied by Ronnie and Arnold. The motel's phone records showed that 3 calls were made from the room that they rented, 2 Jake Wood's pager and 1 to the house where Tremane Wood lived. Surveillance video from a local Walmart showed Brandy, Lanita, Jake, and Tremane buying ski masks and gloves earlier in the evening. Shortly after the murder, Jake Wood and his girlfriend Lanita Bateman drove 2.5 hours east to stay with family in another town. Tremane Wood fled to Houston, Texas. Brandy Warden, however, stayed home in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Within a week, all 4 were captured and arrested and charged with first-degree felony murder, making them all eligible for the death penalty. At Tremane Wood's 2004 trial, his older brother Jake claimed to be the stabber. At the hearing all the evidence, jurors did not believe him and found Tremane Wood guilty of first-degree murder, and they chose a death sentence. Maybe Jake Wood just wanted to protect his youngest brother from getting sentenced to death, and he was willing to sacrifice himself instead for that punishment. A year later, Zajaton Jake Wood was also found guilty, and even though prosecutors were seeking a death penalty for him, a jury decided to give him life in prison without the possibility of parole. Why juries choose a different punishment for someone committing the same crime, I don't know. Jake Wood, while serving his life sentence, committed suicide in prison in 2019. Even though the laws in Oklahoma allows it under the felony murder rule, or law of parties, the state decided to seek long prison terms for the two women instead of death penalties. Brandy Warden, who had 3 children, including a son with Tremane Wood, agreed to plead guilty to reduced charges as long as she would testify for the state in the trials of the other 3. She took the deal, saying that she wanted to be able to go back home to her kids one day. Brandy Warden went to prison, and she has since been released after serving 12 years. Lanita Bateman, who had only been dating Jake Wood for a few months, turned down the same offer that was given to Brandy. She refused to cooperate with the state, saying that she will not help them send someone to death row. She was sentenced to life plus 101 years with a chance of parole in the year 2040 when she will be 58 years old. 46-year-old Tremane Wood, who is scheduled to be executed in Oklahoma on November 13 of this year, has also been accused recently of distributing drugs in prison and ordering a hit on another inmate. Of course, as is the case with every capital murder case resulting in a death sentence, there have been multiple appeals filed by Tremane Wood over the years, including that the lawyer who represented him was a cocaine addict and alcoholic. And that is just one of the reasons that the lawyer was incompetent, resulting in Wood being sentenced to death, and that he deserves a new trial. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more death row and upcoming execution stories so that you're alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco Rivera. Thank you for watching. Take care and bye for now.